Well, hello everybody. We're going to start a new series today. It's basically a Heathkit TA17 combo amplifier. And this thing was sent to me by our good friend I'm a Junk Collector Don, who sent it to me and asked me if I'd be interested in restoring it. And obviously I am, because I'm into fixing amps. So I've got this thing apart. I'm going to start from the beginning, and I'm going to do as much of a step-by-step as I can. I want to just kind of take you through a couple things. I haven't plugged it in yet, and I have no intention of plugging it in yet, but there's a few things I want to show you. I just want to do a quick walkthrough. So I'm going to show you up on the screen in a second what the circuit board looked like when I first got it. But I'm going to show you what it looks like now, and you'll see it's a relatively simple circuit board. Not much to it. You've got some transistors right here, all right, and these are RCA, some pretty old stuff. And you've got some electrolytic caps. You've got one here, and you've got this big sucker. And then look at this thing. This is a electrolytic cap, 8,000 microfarads, 90 volts. This is 4,000 at 70 volts, I believe. And you've got this huge transformer, and you've got a couple of drivers. So this is no tube here, obviously. This is all transistor. But when I got this thing, I opened it up first. First thing I noticed was that this capacitor was scorched, and this component was completely gone. There were just the leads sticking out. And let me zoom in on that so you can see it. So one thing you'll notice on this board is there are no designations that correspond to the schematic. They list the values, like here's an example where they list the value, but it doesn't tell you where on the schematic to find it. So in order to fix this thing, you have to use your skills very much as how to find components on a schematic. But let me show you what the what this capacitor looked like when I first looked at it on the board. So you could see it was burnt. There's a huge scorch mark under here, and it took me a while to figure out what this component was. I didn't know if it was a resistor, I didn't know if it was a capacitor, I didn't know if it was a diode. Had no idea what it was. And here's the power amplifier section, and you'll see I had to go through some deduction and some tracing, and I found out that this missing component here was actually a 100 ohm resistor right here. And it goes to this, it goes to Q12, which is right here. And I'm sorry, it goes to Q15, I'm sorry. It goes to Q15, and the other end goes to ground. And I'll flip the unit over in a second and show you how I found that. But in the meantime, here's a picture of what it looked like when I first got it. Okay, so we flipped the unit over, and you know, again, trying to figure out what that component was led me to this area right here on the board. Okay, and I believe that by tracing this out, that's how I was able to find. I want to make sure I'm in the right spot. Yes, so these two right here are the component that was smoked. So what I had to do is I had to trace one here, right, and this goes to the D right here. There's a D marking, and if we look at the schematic, you'll see right here it says D right there. And then I had to trace the other side of it, which appears to go to a designator E, and I don't know if you could see that, but it says E right there. And I also noticed that it goes to this transistor, which is right here. So again, when I look at the schematic, I'm looking for an E. There's the E, and there's Q15. So that let me know that this R313 is a 100 ohm resistor. So that's how I was able to trace it. If I wasn't able to read a schematic, I'd never know what it was. So, you know, for those of you that are starting out in this hobby, or you know, trying to learn, it's not hard to find this stuff. You just have to look for some clues and find the right part. So anyway, back to this unit. This is the bottom side of that 8,000 microfarad 90 volt cap, which is bad. It does not work. I put an ESR meter on it, and I'll show you what the ESR meter looks like right here. And this ESR meter allows you to measure capacitors in circuit, which is really, really cool. And what we'll do is we'll do a live demonstration to show you what that looks like. So we're going to take this lead, put it on the negative. We're going to take this lead and put it on the positive side. Okay? Then we're going to take this positive side and we're going to connect it right here. And we're going to take the negative side and connect it right here. Okay? Then we're going to turn on the ESR meter. Let me move this out of the way so you can see it. Nothing. I'm just going to scroll through some of the frequencies. You'll see that it's coming in at 9 microfarads. Clearly not what it's supposed to be. So that's kind of telling me that it's bad. So I know for sure that that's bad, that component. It's supposed to be 8,000, right? So these ESR meters are really cool because normally with a standard voltmeter like this Fluke that I have here, it does have a capacitor setting that you can check with, but typically it's always going to be wrong because it's in circuit. So this will allow me to measure, and it allows me to change the frequencies. And so I know I need to replace this. I also know that the one I buy to replace it is going to be about 1/3 of the size. So what I'm going to end up doing is probably removing this can, unstuffing it, taking everything out of it, and then putting the new component inside, if I can get it open. I don't know what's in there. If I can't get it open and I can't use the shell on top, I'll find another way to do it, and you'll be able to see that as we go through the series. So that's the plan on that one. That's your filter cap right there. So without that, this thing ain't going to work. And that's probably, I don't know for sure, that's probably a reason why that resistor blew up, because I've just got bad voltages going through the whole thing. Now, one other thing that I did notice when I was taking this apart was that this was floating inside of it. I don't know if that was always in there or if it was put in there to ship it, so I don't know the answer to that, but if this was floating around inside and someone plugged it in, yeah, that would cause a short for sure. So anything else notable into here? The transformer, you know, I've ohmed it out. It appears to be okay. And obviously, you know, you check your connections to your center tap. I've also got this floating around here. This is a 500 microfarad 30 volt cap with a, looks like a 5-watt resistor or a 10-watt resistor. That's going out to the speaker connection, and that's just kind of floating around, so I need to find a way to fix that. In this tray here, there's a reverb tank, which I've removed, and this is the reverb tank. And the reason why I removed it, it was originally connected to the chassis with double stick tape right here. All right, and they had this stuck underneath here, and for obviously don't want that floating around. These things are very, very fragile and easy to break. So I've removed it, and when the time is right, I'll go ahead and mount it permanently to this aluminum bar. So my next step is to get in the filter cap to replace that, and then I'm going to start working backwards. So I did order some replacement transistors here. Let me flip it over so you can see it. Okay, so I did order these 40409s and 40410 transistors, which come with this heat sink around it. Got them on eBay, pretty cheap. I believe they're RCAs. So I'm definitely going to change those, given that this component connects directly to Q15, and get that taken out of there. I've also ordered some electrolytic caps here. These are you know, standard size, 100 microfarads, 50 volts, and I think I've got a 40 here and some other ones which are probably bad. They've been in there a long time. And I've also ordered this this 4000 can, and again I'm going to figure out how I'm going to mount that inside. And I'm going to start there as a reference. Once I get those components installed, then I'll start to be able to check and see what else may be bad. I have two of these transistors, which I'm going to replace as well before I do anything. And interestingly, when I opened up the case, I found these floating around in there, which are insulators, which go here on these transistors. So I'm going to take those off. I'm going to put some electrolytic compound underneath them that's non-conductive, and make sure they're seated correctly. These heat sinks are a little bit loose, as you can see here. So we'll clean all that up. I'm also going to have to de-rust this transformer, and then the case that it comes in is an interesting story as well. So, you know, it's a Heathkit, obviously. I don't know if the kit had you Tolex it yourself, or if it came Tolexed. But this is, you know, some kind of particle board that has a Tolex on it. This back cover is not really so bad, but the actual case is a different story. So, if you look at the case, you'll see that it's in fairly bad shape. Needs some work, and I'll figure out how I'm going to deal with that. One thing I noticed on this thing is, you see this screen here, this little vent? Well, it's kind of pushed in, if you see there, right? It's bowed in. It's probably supposed to be more flush to the outside of the case. Well, that happens to sit right here, where these transistors are. And I'm wondering if that could be the cause of the short, but I just don't know the answer, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to figure out what's causing the issue. So this can is really, really cool. And that's my story. So I've replaced this cap, and I replaced that resistor like I told you. And that's all I've done so far. So I'm going to wait until the parts get in, and I'm going to start showing you how you troubleshoot it, how you install the parts, and how you bring this thing back to life. Just to walk through the controls before we end this one. So there's a guitar section, which is interesting. You got your volume, your bass, your treble, your tremolo, your reverb. Then you've got a microphone section, which is volume, bass, and treble. And then you have a bass section. So this thing is pretty unique in that it covers all areas, and it's got nice aluminum knobs, not cheap. Then it's got guitar inputs, it's got bass inputs, it's got a microphone input, and it's got a phonograph. There's a brightness and a high and medium, and then it's got the power switch, and it's got the dual light. And I think this thing will clean up pretty nicely. And you know, these things were fairly simple in the day, but I don't think I've ever seen a repair of any of these on YouTube. So this may be the first Heathkit amplifier that is on YouTube. So anyway, I'm going to end the series here, end this particular installment anyway here. Once I get the components in, I'll kick up volume number 2. A couple of other things, just to take a look at the schematic real quick. You'll see they've got it broken down into sections. So they've got the guitar amp preamp, the bass preamp, the microphone preamp. There's the power section that we were looking at earlier, and there's your reverb right there, and there's your tremolo, and then basically your power supply. So it's a pretty big schematic. Obviously, I've only able to find one copy of the schematic, by the way, on the internet. It's the same copy because you'll see here, someone wrote here when they were building it, and I've done a search on Google, and every copy that I find has that writing. So that means there's only really one that exists. It's not the clearest in the world, but it'll work. So anyway, that's where we are. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll be happy to answer it. Until then, this is Ron. Thank you.